One country is proposing a new wealth tax on the evil rich to essentially fund a new universal basic income program. I'm going to tell you about the details and why you need to be aware of this. I'm going to share with you an article from a website called businesstech.co.za. This is in South Africa, and the headline is Immigration Warning as ANC, the prevailing party in South Africa, puts wealth tax back on the table. South Africa is one of the countries that, since the height of the pandemic, has been talking about a wealth tax. At one point, they were talking about a 7% per year wealth tax, if I remember correctly. Basically, if you had enough money, if you were one of those nasty, disgusting rich pigs who worked and built a business. I have friends in South Africa who have worked very hard over the years to build successful businesses. One just finally walked away. And he's saying, if they were to pass that, I'd have to invest. I don't want to invest in South Africa outside of my business. I'd have to find somewhere to invest. I'd have to earn lower yields somewhere else than I would in my business. And if I don't, my family would be wiped out in 15 years. I imagine that's what some folks in political parties like the ANC and others like it around the world would like to see. They'd like to see your family wiped out because they don't like the fact that you're rich and they're not. If it's your first time here, I'm Andrew Henderson, founder of Nomad Capitalist. We're a boutique consulting firm that helps 7- and 8-figure investors and entrepreneurs legally go where you're treated best. You can learn everything that entails at nomadcapitalist.com, but basically keeping more of your own money, keeping your freedom in an unfree world, and it is increasingly dicey out there. Here's the article from Business Tech. Experts in South Africa warn that the ANC's renewed position on taxing the country's wealthiest individuals to fund a basic income grant could push them offshore, adding further strain to the tax base. And so already we see that there are two types of countries in the world, exactly what we've been telling you from the very beginning here at Nomad Capitalist. There are countries who think that you are going to stay. You have no other choice. As Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, said, "Where are you going to go?" Adam Carolla will have something to say about that at Nomad Capitalist Live coming up here soon. But where are you going to go? That's exactly how the people in some countries think. And yet at the last Nomad Capitalist Live, I sat next to the former president of Georgia, Mikhail Saakashvili, who basically flattened the country's tax system, cut the number of taxes by 75%, cut the rate substantially, pretty much flattened it all, other than a couple of different tiers in some cases. Controversial guy, no doubt, but ushered in a system where the government has to ask your permission to raise taxes. They said that's the way to encourage foreign investment. And so obviously not every country is going to keep that system rolling as perfectly as it was intended. But that shows that there are places that want your business, they want your investment, and they want you to be there because they realize you bringing money and investing, you bringing money and spending, you being there and bringing your knowledge is valuable. Even countries like New Zealand, to a certain extent, where they did briefly talk about a wealth tax, are trying to recruit people to bring their knowledge to the country. Places like Singapore have long looked for that. And so you want to find a country, if you're going to go where you're treated best, you want to find a country, particularly where you can live or where you buy real estate with the ability to live in the future as a backup plan, where they are in the latter camp, and not in the camp of everyone's just going to stay here and put up with whatever we pass. And you can see that where I'm from, the United States. All the states in like the Northeast that want to pass some new millionaires tax or a new mansion tax, and they always downplay it. Oh, yeah, the rich say they're going to go somewhere, they don't go anywhere. Yeah, well, look at where all the people are moving in the United States. They're not moving to Connecticut. They're all moving to Florida. Look at the electoral map over the last 60 years. All the electoral votes are moving south and west out of the Northeast. So apparently people are moving out, and they're not replacing themselves in those places. And so no matter where you go in the world, you want to find a place where they don't just expect you're going to stay there. And that means you shouldn't just stay there. The article continues that the party's policy conference held at the end of July, the ANC said that a wealth tax is the preferred option to fund a new basic income grant in South Africa, with delegates pointing specifically to the top 5% of earners in the country who hold a majority of wealth. Imagine that, people who earn more have more, right? And so what's the mentality? Let's not help other people earn more. Let's not bring in new business owners. Let's not roll out a golden visa. Let's not encourage people like Andrew or the Nomad Capitalist audience to come and start businesses here with tax incentives or lowering tax rates for everybody. Let's not encourage people like my friends to invest more in their business. One of my friends says he's looking at expanding his business all across Africa. He said, I don't want to invest more in South Africa, and I don't want to trust my business to be solely in South Africa. I want it to be a small piece of the pie, so if this place crumbles, I get on a plane and move, and the people I've installed in the various countries keep running my IT business. And so the government in places like South Africa, They don't realize that, and they don't care, because I continue to say that they're jealous, they're angry, and they just don't want you to be successful. And so basically what they're trying to do is to fund this permanent basic income grant. They want to give money to other people. I'm not opposed to people getting support. I'm certainly opposed to people just getting perpetual income and creating a class of indentured servants that is reliant on funding from the government, that doesn't want to work, that doesn't want to contribute anything. Yeah, my values are Protestant values. Maybe you ought to work. The purpose of life is to sit around watching TV. So what? Oh, 1 in 100 of these people become the next Vincent van Gogh or something. That's what the argument always is, right? And the other 99 will be sitting around watching Jerry Springer. So why are you going to be paying a wealth tax? By the way, top 5%. Top 5%. Even in a country like the United States, you're not earning that much. Like, sure, there's 95% of people who earn less than you, and so you're doing all right. And as entrepreneurs, we don't want to have sympathy for ourselves. But top 5%, you're not like mega millionaire in the top 5%, especially in South Africa. And so that's not exactly a high bar to cross. And so they talked about a study, coronavirus, why South Africa needs a wealth tax now. What did I tell you after the pandemic? This will be the playbook to rolling out not only raising taxes, but new taxes. Right there in black and white. Coronavirus, why South Africa needs a wealth tax. They're not the only ones. You've seen the UK, you've seen New Zealand, you've seen all these countries that didn't keep a rainy day fund. I talked once, and I had a client mention to me recently. He said, I realized your name, the Lifetime Emergency Fund, is exactly what I've been doing, where I just have like millions of dollars set aside earning interest at a low interest rate. And yeah, I know inflation and all that, but like I just want millions of dollars sitting there. And that if anything goes wrong, it's just waiting for me. Because, no business lasts forever, and who knows what can happen, but I've got that couple $1 million. And so he has a rainy day fund. Many of you have a rainy day fund. It may not be, $4 or $5 million, but you have a rainy day fund. You could sell some stocks. You could sell some rental properties. You could do whatever. You could raise the cash. Your government has no rainy day fund. They went out into the pandemic totally unprepared. They had to borrow a bunch of money. I mean, look at the deficits in some of these countries. Outrageous deficits, outrageous amount of new debt to fund something that they weren't prepared for. And now we've got to pay the bill. Well, sure, they got to pay the bill, but it's the usual tactics that you should pay more, even in the top 5%, right? That's the number that South Africa keeps talking about. In the UK, they basically wanted to tax anyone who had £500,000. £500,000. Combine it with inflation. Basically, you own a house, you're rich. And what did I tell you years ago? I told you it will become the haves or the have-nots, and it will become basically two categories. Oh, you've got a house with any equity at all? You need to pay up because you're rich. And everybody who has nothing, right? There's no doubt some of them, because they've been screwed. Not by you, the business owner, not by you, the investor, because what you're doing is helping them. But they've been screwed. They've been left behind by their own government, by the government education system, by all the bad policies that their government has. They've been left behind. And sure, I think it's easier than ever to make wealth. We've got great democratization of wealth. I've got guys in Morocco, Egypt, Uruguay, Argentina, Thailand, who've made millions of dollars with online businesses, and they come to us for help. If they can do it, so can someone in South Africa, so can someone in the United States. It didn't take them much to start. But nevertheless, some people are just not going to be successful. That's fine. And we should give support perhaps to the folks who really have a hard time. But the idea is going to be that anyone who doesn't have money, if you're renting, if you just have an average job, you now need to be supported by anyone who owns a house. That's going to be the new definition of rich. The top 5% of income earners are not the mega wealthy. They put a picture of Jeff Bezos, they put a picture of Elon Musk, they put a picture of billionaires, and they drive it around town like in Washington, D.C., and then they basically point to Andrew. Okay, Andrew, I make a decent living. I have some assets. I'm not Elon Musk. You're not Elon Musk. Unless you're Elon Musk. But that's what they're doing. And so you should be prepared. And so what is this group, this expert group in South Africa saying? People are going to leave. Now, what I see in South Africa is in particular a lot of folks who say they might leave, but really don't want to leave because they do like their country. And so that becomes the conundrum. Are you willing to make a change in your life to protect wealth for your generation, for future generations? Was talking to a friend of mine in South Africa about 2 months ago, and he said, my wife and I have a shared objective. Our objective is creating generational wealth for our family. And they're very religious, and they want to do it for future generations. They want to do that because they want to continue sharing their values with the world and providing value through their businesses. We want to create generational wealth. That's not going to be possible if stuff like this wealth tax comes through, right? They're going to basically take, again, one of the numbers was 7%, so they can give money to people who don't have a job, for example. I think that was already the government's job, was unemployment income. I thought they already handled that, right? So they want to take what you have. They're going to find all kinds of ways to tax because, again, they're bringing out new taxes. Wealth taxes haven't been much of a thing. They've mostly failed in Europe, but they're going to, 10 out of 14 countries got rid of them. Okay, and so they're going to bring out new taxes like the wealth tax, which has been tried and failed. They're going to bring out retroactive taxes. They're going to bring out unrealized capital gains taxes. They're going to bring out any way to get at you. And so you own a business? Sure, we'll tax that. Why? The business, it's worth $50 million, but I don't have $50 million. Great, I guess you have to sell it, or I don't know what you have to do, right? And that all these businesses are going to be worth less and less. They're going to shoot themselves in the foot in these countries, but they're going to take you down with them. And so the question is, my friend, you may be in the same position. He likes his country. He's talked about moving, but yet he hasn't moved. Why? Well, there may come a time when he has to decide, is it worth my goal of generational wealth? Is my goal of holding on to my money? Are my values of not letting the government bankrupt me for a political posture? Is that worth more than staying here? Can I find somewhere else in the world, out of 252 countries and territories, where I can live that gives me the same things I like about here? Listen, Cape Town's a beautiful city, and we went to some great restaurants. There's some beautiful parts of it. I can imagine it'd be a good place to live in, and rather affordable compared to a lot of places. That's great. Go to Portugal. That's great. Go to Mauritius nearby. Go to any number of places where you can get good food and good wine, and it's affordable, because you're going to have to make a decision. And if you're not ready to make the decision, what you at least want is a residence permit. Start a company somewhere. Start a company in a place like Mauritius. Start a company in a place like Georgia. Start a company in a place like the UAE, the Cayman Islands. Get that residence permit. Have a place to go. Maybe you buy a property there. And now it starts to seem more familiar. Hey, you know what? If things get bad enough, here's what we're going to do. What Robert Kiyosaki told us at our last Nomad Capitalist Live. Where are you going to go in 3 days to where you can be safe? And if you know what that place looks like, it'll just be like going to your summer house, and you won't hesitate. But you'll be able to leave and take your wealth and take your family with you and be safe. If you don't have that, then you're going to be left whenever one of these taxes come through. They sometimes only leave you with a matter of weeks, maybe a month or two, to prepare, to react, to protect your assets. You won't be protected. So have your place to go. Possibly have a home there. Move some money overseas. Do it legally. If you have the money, get a second citizenship. So that way, if the government ties your leaving to your citizenship, you have the option. You always have options. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an investor, if you're the kind of person that they want to tax the wealth of, you know that risk mitigation is a top priority. Mitigate your risk by having another place to go. They're not going to give you time. They keep pushing on the door. They keep knocking. Eventually, the door is going to fly right open. And this wealth tax is going to come whether it's in South Africa or where you live, because politicians in bankrupt countries are not going to take the blame. They're going to blame it on you because it's politically convenient. And you're going to be stuck paying the bill if you don't have a backup plan.